Hello, welcome to PODnas. This is a sports show with a Southern flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jarrett Roser. And today we are going to, unfortunately, recap a pretty crappy weekend in Louisiana sports. Um, except for, I think, the shining bright spot, which is the 2023 or 2024 Heisman winner, Jayden Daniels. Hail Mary. We'll get into that. But let's start off with the first news of the day. LSU gets really taken to the tool shed in the second half of this Texas A&M game. They drop at 38-23. Garrett Musmeyer throws 3 picks in the second half.
You just call him Musmeyer?
Listen, man, don't come at me today. I said Nussmeyer. It's just my words aren't great. All right. Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't good. It was a mismeyer by him, a miserable performance. It was bad. They just got outplayed. They got really, really outplayed in the second half. I went to a show. I opted to not let my eyeballs see that. And watching the highlights today was it was rough. It like put me back into a poor mental space. So
Yeah, you didn't ask how I was doing today, but I was gonna say I'm struggling, much like Louisiana football teams who aren't named Tulane at the moment. But what's really frustrating is when they're up 10 in the second half, despite missed opportunities. They could have been up more than 10, but they were up 10 against a team whose quarterback was reeling, a team that does not have much recent track record of being able to show that they can put up points in a particular hurry or overcome deficits. I went back and looked, and they had lost their last 11 games that they trailed by 10 or more going back to 2022. And then some of that includes even just trailing by 10 early and not being able to overcome it. They had not overcome a 10-point deficit at halftime or later since 2013. And so it had been a while since the Aggies had shown the ability to do this. But you're in this pretty solid position, up 10 with the ball, and just need to kind of continue to take care of the football and take care of just not hand them anything. And then immediately everything starts to unravel. The first of 3 second-half interceptions by Nussmeyer, a change at quarterback for Texas A&M, and for whatever reason, LSU's defense cannot stop the dual threat quarterback, the freshman Marcel Reed, as he comes in, just absolutely no answers, and he's cutting them up left and right. You have 3 missed field goals or 2 missed field goals. One is a miss, one's a bad hold, one is a botch snap where you don't even get it off. I say a botch snap because the holder is not watching when the ball is snapped and it just ricochets off him. And so you don't even give Damian Ramos a chance there. And so a lot starts going really poorly in a hurry. And I think it's all worth unpacking. Part of the reason why Nussmeier's making bad decisions at that point is because you can't run the football to save your life. And so he's feeling like to make anything happen at all, he's got to force some things to make it happen. And I was glad that Kelly talked about that some after the game, because it wasn't all on Nussmeier.
yeah,
Guys up front were getting beat. They weren't establishing any level of balance. It was just, a full-fledged, nightmare second half.
Nussmeier threw 50 times. I feel like especially in the SEC, you have to have a balanced attack. And right now, this LSU team does not have a balanced attack at all. We've seen some flashes from Caden Durham, but again, looking at this, Marcel Reed had double the amount of rushing yards that the entire LSU team had.
And he played a quarter and a half of the game.
Yeah. It's that is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous stat.
It was the numbers end up being, I think, technically 23 carries for 24 yards. If you take out the sack adjusted stuff, I've seen 35 or 40 yards. Either way, you're looking at a yard or a yard and a half per carry. It's numbers that talking to someone over at Texas A&M yesterday, he referenced that's like an FCS team going against one of us sort of numbers. And so that's not really going to cut it. And part of that is you lose Garrett Dellinger in the first half, but they were getting beat up front in a lot of spots before that. Credit to the A&M defensive line and just the A&M defense overall making some things happen. Being disruptive to some things, and then it just kind of continued to snowball as you lose one of your veteran starters there with tons of experience and throw another inexperienced freshman into the mix. But there was a lot going on there in terms of not being able to run the football on offense. And then on the flip side, I just kept thinking, even after the early spark from Reed, some of what they're posing right now is some of what I was a little bit worried about last week against Arkansas, but had confidence in the development of LSU's defense that they were going to contain that. And I thought they really, really did at Arkansas. And obviously this is oversimplifying it, but in terms of having to account for an athletic quarterback and running back combo on some of those read plays, some of that bore some similarities to what they had succeeded against largely against Arkansas. And I kept waiting for that to kind of click in. And they really at no point had answers for the A&M offense once he came into the game. And Greg Penn talked to reporters afterwards, said it wasn't something they really prepared for. Brian Kelly said he had hoped when they got to that point that what they had prepared for the previous week would kind of, help them in that moment, but it clearly didn't. In the end of the day, you end up giving up that lead, and then it just looks like inevitable at that point. Even with a lot of time still left, it just didn't seem like LSU was going to answer.
Yeah. No, or if they did answer, that Texas A&M would immediately rebuttal, at which it happened. LSU scores that late touchdown, and you think, oh, maybe, and then immediately Texas A&M just goes down and gets another one to pad that lead. What do you think? Do you think LSU still has a shot at getting in the playoffs?
I do right now from a technical standpoint, but
yeah,
we
can go technical or wish casting, whatever we kind of want to do.
Well, if they play like they did Saturday, then no. So that's kind of where I'm at is I know you were looking at the rankings before we started recording, and you were kind of frustrated to see how big the drop was. It was the biggest movement of anyone in the top 25. It really was a relatively, in terms of big upsets, this was a pretty quiet weekend compared to what we'd seen for most of the season thus far. The LSU A&M game was the only upset in terms of a lower ranked team beating a higher ranked team. But even then, from a betting line standpoint, the Aggies were favored at home. And so it was a pretty close call dynamic. And this was the first time since I think week 4 that there hadn't been multiple upsets on the schedule, and just the third time this season, one of those times being week 0 where there's only 6 games or whatever on the schedule to begin with. And so nobody else lost to kind of help pad LSU's fall at all. They fall all the way down there to 16 in both. That said, you now host Alabama, who has been up and down at best in a couple of weeks, and have an opportunity to jump a few spots back up toward that kind of bubble zone of the playoffs, and have a Vanderbilt team that was just ranked this past week. And so you have opportunities to kind of scratch your way back in there for sure if you take care of business. The biggest question to me is just, are you going to be able to take care of that business after watching the way that you played against A&M? And some of that, they're going to play a lot better in a lot of these games in November, but also you saw deficiencies, and including the running game that you thought they'd kind of addressed and poked their head back up and are going to be a problem. And now Alabama and Vandy and Florida and all these teams are going to see some level of blueprint and vulnerability and whatnot to try and attack on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it was it just reminded me last year the defense was so porous, and it's like when you break up with a toxic ex and you think that everything then you find someone new who's really good, and you're like, oh, this is a step forward in the right direction. Your friend, you're like, oh, you got rid of let's just call her Rachel. You got rid of her, and then someone else comes in, but then all of a sudden you see your boy out with the ex-girlfriend again. You're like, what just happened? I thought everything was whatever. It's you can't get rid of, it feels like this LSU team, and really a lot since Brian Kelly has been here, something that used to be such a like LSU defense was never something that came into question with any LSU team and any really of the previous coaches that I can remember, at least, in my like lifetime. But it seems to consistently come into question with the Brian Kelly teams that we've seen. Not to say that it can't get addressed or anything. It's funny to me that this keeps coming up and it doesn't seem like it fully ever is getting addressed.
I I just want to thank you so much for that completely hypothetical example of the ex-girlfriend, name and all. That I don't know how you came up with that, pulled that out of the
I
ether,
listen. I'm good with names. I'm good with names.
just making them up on the spot for sure.
Yeah.
I look, I do still think that this defense overall, including even what we saw Saturday, is better than what we saw last year, and that they're in a much better place as a program right now than they were a couple of years ago when Kelly took over, and that the defense right now is not the talent level of some of the great LSU defenses that we grew up watching for sure, but that there's a talent level there enough so to compete and potentially be a playoff team for sure. And we've seen some flashes of that when they're actually, finding the right places for guys and guys are actually playing all together, playing their 111 and so forth. But to get to where the defense wants to be was going to be kind of a multi-year process with the hiring of Blake Baker and bringing Corey Raymond back and bringing Bo Davis over and so on. And so I'm still really optimistic about the defense being good enough this year and that they're on the track toward restocking further that talent pool and having the right coaches in place to kind of trust them over a longer term.
Yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. And thank you for really gassing up my imagination skills there. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so impressed when you can out of thin air creatively write like that on the fly.
Listen, I am what I am. All right. And I'm a Popeye. All right. Okay, let's move on. Jared, can you give us a little recap of all the other misery that happened this weekend?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, not a great weekend just across the board for the D1 teams around Louisiana. It ends up being a 2-7 weekend, and one of those two was Nickel State beating McNeese State in a Louisiana versus Louisiana Southland Conference game. And it was a tight one. I think it ends up being 24-19. But the big highlight of the weekend, honestly, on the college level is Tulane going out to Denton, Texas, beating up on North Texas. It was it fifth 11 a.m. or noon kickoff in the past 7 weeks, and they came out of the gate strong once again. I tallied it up over the weekend, and I think those 5 games that started the early kickoffs, they've outscored opponents 62-19 in the first quarter. Led 4 of those, led 3 of those by double digits. I think actually led 3 of those by 14 or more, and so they've done a really strong job this season, despite having to have these morning kickoffs, of being ready to come out of the gates firing. And so they had a hold off North Texas, a really potent North Texas offense late, but they really controlled that game throughout. Makai Hughes ends up
I was
with
about to say, yeah,
a new career
195.
high, 195. He had 169 at halftime, which was already a career high, and they were in full control of that game by that point and just had to, continue to hold on and not gift North Texas too much. And so they continue to cruise along.
Yeah. Follow up, by the way, the matchup predictor on the ULM University of South Alabama game was very correct, and we were very wrong.
Yeah.
Oh man, it
was a
wasn't
tough
fun.
one.
Quickly on the Saints. Listen. I know you don't like to call for people's job, but Dennis Allen needs to get the fuck out of there. All right, Kershaw. He needs to go.
Goodness.
He needs to go. The Saints, they look utterly like just like unprepared, and like if he hasn't lost the locker room, it feels like he's about to lose the locker room. The first time that the Saints have lost 6 straight, I think since 2003, it's early 2000s. It's been a while. It's tough to watch. It is super, super tough to watch. And I understand like Spencer Rattler's a rookie and everything, but like clearly he's not ready. And I think a lot of that goes down to the coaching. We don't have to get too much into it. The Saints just aren't a very good football team right now.
Yeah, I watched none of that. I was awake yesterday for like a
Yeah.
couple of hours, maybe. I woke up and posted the here's what happened to LSU in the rankings post on our On3 site, went back to sleep for a while, and then woke up and did an interview with a prospect who had been on the road for that A&M and LSU trip at, as a visit out there to College Station. And he'll be in Tiger Stadium in a couple weeks against Bama, and then took that call from the friend over at A&M and then went right back to sleep. And I was not sad that I missed the entirety of NFL Sunday.
We had the game on in like a corner at the bar that I work at up here in Chicago, and someone was like, "Hey, can we watch another game?" I was like, "Absolutely, we can have 1000% put on another game. I would rather watch anything else." Let's give a shout out though. A bright spot of the weekend, at least for myself, not for a lot of people that were at the bar yesterday. Jayden Daniels is a miracle worker. Throws and also the Bears cornerback completely. I mean, that's a whole separate issue, but let's focus on the positive. Jayden Daniels leads this comeback as this a miracle throw. Gets tipped, Hail Mary, time expires. It was just incredible. Jayden Daniels is the truth. He's great. I'm gonna buy a jersey soon. That's where we are. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, so much has to go into a Hail Mary play and all those things, and there has to be a level of being fortunate that it bounces the right way there for sure. But you could sense that is one of the things that my phone blew up about last night, and I was like, "Well, let me look at this play because clearly Jayden did something awesome."
Yeah.
And there has to be a level of belief to position yourself for that and then to complete it. And I think that some of Jayden's demeanor has clearly impacted the team around him. I mean, as a young quarterback, to have the level of confidence that he has and to see the level of mutual trust that he and his teammates and his coaches all have in one another, I think, credit to him and everyone else around him for sure.
And they were breaking the play down on NFL Live earlier, and Dan Orlovsky had a the Bears had a spy on Jayden Daniels on the Hail Mary play instead of rushing when they're only rushing 3. And he made a good point. Like one of the most, even, 8 games in, one of the most elusive signal caller, playmakers in the NFL right now. Why do you have a spy with 2 seconds left? Like, and you're in prevent defense. It makes no sense. Send the extra guy and don't just give him all the time in the world. Like, but it was great. I'm glad they did that because I loved it, and for a weekend that was filled with so much pain, and Will Ferrell for me, that it was nice to see that. So
House music.
house music. I go to this show and Will Ferrell's hosting, and Twista is the only rapper and a bunch of DJs. This is a little side note for you guys. And when Twista gets off stage, as he's leaving stage, he just says into the microphone, "House music," and then just walked off stage. There's no context. There's no anything. He just wanted people to know that he knew what kind of show this was.
I enjoy random exclamations a lot, so I like that story.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know that anyone else cares, but I like it.
No. Listen, we might cut it out entirely. It might not even make the episode. So,
So
let's
good.
let's continue the uptick of good stuff. Jared, let's get into these plays of the week.
Sure, and I apologize if I'm nasally or losing my voice or whatever the hell's going on and don't have the same oomph as a typical week, but these are some great plays. We're going to start with a couple that I had a chance to catch personally on Thursday night. Catholic Point Capee out there in New Roads. Jude Morrison dropping back on a 4th down. Has Brooks Caps going up and extending and pulling that thing down.
Ooh.
That was we'll watch it again, I guess. That was a play early in this game against St. Edmunds.
Nice.
Two teams that entered the weekend among the last 20 undefeated teams remaining in the state, and so Catholic Point Capee is now the the lone man in that district at least standing. They're 8-0 on the season and have control of that district. They're doing really well out there in New Roads under Coach Caruth, and that was a great play early on in that game by Jude Morrison and Brooks Capps. Headed straight from New Roads overnight Thursday up to Alexandria, where I watched Ruston and Alexandria play on Friday night, and Alexandria comes out with a win, and this was what proved to be the game winner. On a play late, Carson Sellers, a sophomore quarterback, dropping back, has Tanner Townsend,
Ooh.
the senior tight end. They're down late and go up on this play. And if you missed it when you watched it the first time, just watch the ball as best you can as Tanner bobbles it a bit here. And it actually lays on the defender at one point and then rolls over. And
Wow.
Tanner has the wherewithal to haul that thing in.
I was
and
going to say the concentration.
A game winner for the Trojans, who are also undefeated right now, 8-0, and really, kind of opening some eyes as a 5A team to watch around the state.
Hey, congratulations, guys.
This one may remind folks of what they watched from Jayden Daniels on Sunday. On Friday night, a freshman quarterback for Karen Crow, Carson Gursey, taking the snap here. They're down. They need it. Time's expiring to the end zone.
Oh!
Oh my God. Duffy is the GOAT.
And I don't know who shot that. Carson, the quarterback, Carson Gursey, put it on Twitter and tagged me and everything. But that was a freshman to freshman, Carson Gursey to Brandon Duffy Jr. connection. A couple of guys that, I don't know how much you're going to like to hear this as an old man yourself, but they're class of 2028 out there at Karen Crow High School, and they get the big game winner there at the end, a game that the Bears really needed, and they come out on top on the freshman to freshman Hail Mary.
Listen, I'm accepting my age, just stuff hurts. All right. Just enjoy it while you can now, kids.
And then wrapping it up, we have
what a
crazy
play.
Another crazy play, a lot of misdirection, trickeration. This is from credit to KTBS. I saw that Alex Anderson, buddy up there in Shreveport, included as his top play of the night on their broadcast Friday night. And this is the North DeSoto Griffins quarterback, Luke Delafield. And they talked about it and friends. You have a little reverse flea flicker situation, and he'll show it twice, but Luke Delafield hands off to Kenny Thomas, to Eli Prosell coming back, tosses back to Delafield, looks deep to Miller Warren, the standout tight end there for a big touchdown in a North DeSoto win. The Griffins have been battling through injuries all season long, but are keeping it moving and remaining among the top teams in Class 4A and Division II non-select as this season starts to near the playoffs.
And we need your help to pick the top play of the week. So these 4 plays are going to be up on our Instagram, PODnas_LA. Go vote. We're going to tell the winner on our show later on this week, but we need your help in picking that. We can't do it. I love all the plays. I would pick every single one. So I need y'all to help us. Help me help you,
I have trouble narrowing it down to the 4. I had two plays from that Alexandria game that I was down to 5 and didn't want to leave one of them out, but asked a couple of coaches and they said, go with this one. It's crazy.
Well, I appreciate you sifting through all the plays to find the gems because I couldn't do that, certainly. I would just put them all.
Just from an ADHD standpoint.
Yeah, I literally cannot. That is going to be it for. I don't have anything. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm just ready to go blow my nose again. I mean, essentially everything that Daniel said, keep up through the week. It's an LSU bye week, but there's a lot of big high school games going on. I'll be out to a couple of them later this week. I'll have that interview I mentioned before with Emmanuel Moses, the younger brother of Dylan Moses and Keelan Moses, the former Alabama linebacker and current LSU commit, respectively. And it was a fun one to talk with him. LSU fans may want to hold off on it, though, because Man was decked out in Texas A&M gear and excited to talk.
Yeah, it might be a little
smack. Talk some smack to his brother who's committed to LSU, but it's a good interview nonetheless to kind of introduce some more folks to Man.
Absolutely. Like Jared said, go check out the Louisiana versus All Y'all YouTube page. You can also find them on Twitter, LA versus All Y'all. Like we said again, Instagram, PODnas_LA. Reach out to us, like, comment, share on the video. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what we got wrong, what we got right, and everything in between. If you really liked us, tell your friends about it. If you absolutely hate us, tell your enemies. We still get views either way. So thank you guys so much for sticking around with us. That's all we got. PODnas.
And it's a ticket talking margin for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma.